In the previous chapter, we learned that new value is created in the labor process. We also discussed that this process usually requires some combination of materials, tools, and labor. In this chapter, Marx divides the components of the production process into two parts: constant capital and variable capital. These two concepts, as well as the ratio of constant capital to variable capital, will be important for the remainder of Marx's analysis. Marx spends some time in this chapter explaining how old value is transferred via the labor process into a new product. By old value, he means the value stored in the production inputs used by workers. Remember that raw materials, machines, and tools are themselves the products of some other labor process. As products of labor, these items hold value of their own. When they get used as ingredients in a new labor process, that value they hold is transferred into the new product. For instance, the value of all the cotton used up in the spinning process is transferred into the resulting yarn. When it comes to machines, value gets transferred based on the lifespan of the equipment. A machine that is worth $1,000 and lasts 1,000 days transfers about $1 of value per day. Here's what Marx says about old value transferred from the means of production. In the labor process, value is transferred from the means of production to the product only to the extent that these means lose their exchange value when they lose their independent use value. In other words, the means of production give a new product only as much value as they themselves lose when the product is made. But apart from the value transferred from machines and materials, the labor process also adds new value. As we saw, this added value comes from labor power and amounts to wages and profits. The ratio of old to new value in the product is a direct reflection of how advanced the production process is. Suppose that, using old technology, a spinner can produce 6 pounds of yarn in 6 hours. Now imagine that some new machine lets the spinner produce 6 times as much yarn in the same 6 hours. The amount of new value added in the final product is actually the same. It corresponds to 6 hours of labor done by the spinner. However, there is much more of the final product. What this means is that there is less new value in every pound of yarn spun. Over time, more and more innovations change the ratio of machines to labor. This makes the worker more productive and generally drives down the price of commodities. We have seen this happen for most manufactured products. For example, automobiles are generally cheaper today than they were 100 years ago when accounting for inflation. Many household electronic devices have also gotten significantly cheaper in the last 30 years. When it comes to the main components of production, Marx suggests two categories. Because the value transferred from machines and raw materials is more or less fixed during the labor process, Marx calls them constant capital. The second category is variable capital, which is the part of capital that turns into labor power. This is the labor component of production, and it is variable because it's the only part of capital that produces value above what it is worth. What is important about both of these categories is the notion that they are themselves capital. Marx observes the following. When we described the various roles that the different components of the labor process play in forming product value, we were in fact characterizing the various functions of capital's different components in its own valorization process. Even though raw materials, tools, and the work carried out by employees are all qualitatively very different, in the production process they become parts of one sum of capital. The production process is capital making itself larger by combining parts and, importantly, using labor power's unique ability to create new value. There is a subtle personification in Marx's framing here. Capital is the subject, whereas the workers it employs are objects. What this implies is that the engine of capitalism is a logic of accumulation that operates through people rather than being directed by them. This video is brought to you by Means TV, a worker-owned anti-capitalist streaming service. If you want to help Means TV build a viable haven for leftist media and enjoy its excellent selection of content, we strongly encourage you to sign up for our membership. By clicking the link below and signing up, you would be supporting both Means TV and our channel. The link offers you 20% off of your first month or 20% off of the annual plan. By subscribing, you would be paying into the establishment of an alternative, anti-capitalist media space. You would also be directly supporting our channel. And, of course, you would get access to incredible content. If you're able to spare $7 a month, this is an excellent use of that money.